everybody. So, my name is Shulamit Lazarus, and I am a former nurse and psychotherapist, and I help people get unstuck. And I have a gift that is something that everyone can develop, and that is clairsentience. And clairsentience is not the same as empathy. I went through that in another video. Clair meaning clear and sentience meaning feeling. Everybody has the ability to have an extra strength to the sense that is already normally theirs. But we also can develop senses that we don't have that are strong. So what I want to talk about is how to feel into somebody's energy field. The most important thing is to know, why is that important? And the reason why that's important is that in our situation with coronavirus and COVID deaths and the manipulations and the censoring and the media feeding you what it wants to feed you, and just like slicing and dicing and then giving you different political people and all the players in this game, in this very serious game, which is a grab for control. That we have to know how to tell if somebody's speaking truth. And since the media is feeding you what it wants to feed you according to the perspective it wants you to have. And for anybody who knows about Operation Paperclip, or if you don't know about Operation Paperclip, please take time while it's still online, because things are disappearing online. Google has gone into big pharma. Facebook and Google both are connected with the CIA, and probably more deep state connections and shadow government connections, which is, before you think I'm crazy and shut me off, something that Eisenhower was trying to warn us about. Beware the military-industrial complex. That is the hand that is behind the government. The government does nothing on its own. There are a handful of players in the government that are actually independent. And one of them got assassinated, John F. Kennedy. So this is a very serious time. It's also a time to stay in the light. But right now I want to help you to do something that we call discernment, because it's so easy to believe everything that you're seeing, because you're listening to them speak and you're watching them gesticulate, right? And you don't really know. And they're giving you bits and pieces of people. So just how they destroyed Howard Dean as a possibility for president because they kept repeating the scream. Media is led by experts in propaganda. And that's where Operation Paperclip comes from, which are the Nazis that were brought into the United States because Hitler was the greatest propagandist. And there were people that really admired that, and decades ago brought them in, and they are involved in the corporations that influence us, the media and the entertainment and academia. So you're getting skewed perspectives of things. And I think it's extremely, extremely important that we become discerning, that we get sharp on how to tell somebody's telling the truth, because our visual shit detectors are being thrown off because the stuff that they're saying is not necessarily in context. For example, the other day I saw a little clip that Obama said something, and it looks like in the video that he's speaking to a mass of people about the New World Order, and that the people are too small-minded to be able to make up their own minds. However, it was taken completely out of context from a much bigger talk. at the UN. And so when you take something out of context, you completely destroy and distort the message. So always remember that the media is taking things and giving it to you as they want you to have it, for the perception they want you to have. So it's important to know how to read an energy field. Now, you've all had experiences where you've felt something was about to happen and then it happened, or you heard something and then the person said it, or you thought of a song, you turned on the radio and there it is, right? Or you saw something visually and then it occurred. This is visual is clairvoyant, which is seeing, and then clairaudient, which is hearing, which can be very confusing because it can feel like we have just thoughts and we easily dismiss them. I am highly clairaudient and exquisitely clairsentient, and clairvoyant is my weakest. And so you may have a sensibility, a sense that is stronger, right? So if you more easily are able to visualize, most likely you would be clairvoyant. If you can hear things, and that's the thing that's most impressive to you, is the verbal, then most probably you would be clairaudient. If you go in the direction of strengthening that ability to pick up a more subtle response to things. Because it's really not about your not being able to do it because you're not psychic. Everyone is psychic, they're just not practiced. And so everyone can feel energy, and that's something that I'll talk about in another video, but you're just not practiced at it. So it's really about having an intention to focus on a more subtle response to something, a more subtle stimulus to something. And it's something that you get better at as you go along. In the beginning, when I was feeling into people's fields to see if they were telling the truth, I would have to repetitively do it. If I was listening to somebody on the radio or on the television, I would repeat it. I would put it on and again and see if I got the same response. And over time, I got faster and faster at feeling the response. There are still times when I'll double check. I love the ability to do this with my clients because it really serves them in helping me locate for them the conflict that they have. The first time I experienced that and was able to use it with a client was on a phone session when this woman said that she wanted to lose weight. Yet clearly she wasn't losing the weight. She thought her husband had an affair on her because she wasn't attractive enough, and she wanted to lose the weight, and she wasn't losing the weight. We didn't know what was going on, and so I had her say, I want to lose the weight. And I noticed that her field shrank, and we'll talk about that. And then when I said, okay, now say I don't want to lose the weight, her field opened up. So clearly there was a conflict inside her, and what we needed to do was we needed to explore and parse what was it that was creating the conflict. And for her, it turned out that she was flirting with somebody at work, so she felt that she was actually behaving in a shameful manner and didn't deserve to lose the weight. So she was hanging on to it. So what does that mean when somebody's field opens up? For that, you need to understand that we are all energy fields within energy field within energy field. So everything that you see and hear and feel and touch scientifically actually is an illusion. The science will tell you it's an illusion. The consciousness is picking up information and interpreting it in such a manner so that you then get an impression. So you get an impression of sound, you get an impression of something visual, you get an impression of something textural, yeah? But it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. This doesn't exist the way you think it does. It's not green the way you think it is. It doesn't feel the way you think it does. It's consciousness. Now, why is that important? That we're fields within fields. Okay, so what we're learning, and I'm a healer, and I can attest to this from many years of doing healing work, is that our fields are the result of the pulsings of frequencies. And the frequencies are in different areas that are associated with the body that are called chakras, which you may have heard of, but I also like to call them centers, because chakras actually just means vortex, but it sounds so exotic that it's very easy to make stories about it being some kind of religious thing. It's not about that. It's actually pure math. Just think of it in terms of data, all right? It's information, it's data, it's fields, okay? So there are several fields that are setting out a frequency, and that frequency gets distributed and picked up like a tuning fork picks it up by the organs, the endocrine glands, the nervous system, the blood cells, and so on, until everything is vibrating, right? We talk about people vibrating in good health, right? Or I get good vibes. I get good vibes off that guy. I got bad vibes off that guy. When I go in here, I have bad vibes, right? There's an understanding that things are at a vibrational level, even though we don't speak about it. So the governor, there's one at the root of the body. Then there's one in the center of the belly, pretty much, which is the sacral center, and then another one that governs the organs in the solar plexus area, which governs the stomach area. I'm not going to go into specifics. Then there's the heart, which governs the area in the chest and the organs related to that. Then there's the throat that governs the organs related to the throat area. Then there's the center in the brow, which governs that area, and then there's what we call the crown. Most importantly, in this situation, what you need to know is that the heart center governs all of everything. It is the premier governor. And not only that, it picks up information that that the body doesn't know it has. So the Heart Math Institute is an excellent place to go to learn more about this. They did experiments where they hooked up people with EEG, which is monitoring the brain, and EKG, which monitors the heart and the body, and then showed them on computer screens different images that elicited fear and anger and hate and disgust and lust and all these things. And what they were able to notice over time is that the heart picked up the information first, told the brain, and then the brain told the body. So it's not the brain that governs the body and governs the heart. It's actually the heart that picks up the information first, brings it to the brain, then the brain tells the body. Now, not only does it do that, it actually picks up the information beforehand. So what they noticed is that people were having reactions even before the picture came up. It was the accurate reaction that should be there for the picture when it did come up, but it came up before, right? So that means that the heart has the ability to go into the future and pick up the information and bring it back. So we're proving at that moment also that all time is actually a construct, and it all happens right now. But because we live in this 3D, seeming 3D experience of ourselves, we're not connected, although there are psychics that certainly are, and I've experienced it because I've been trained in precognitive remote viewing, that all time is happening right now, and that we can dip into it at will. So I'll talk about that in another time. So your heart is now picking up the information from the field beforehand and then giving it to you. And then it stimulates the field to open up, and that opens up the rest of the field. Okay? Why is that important? Because when you don't speak truth, there's a part of you that's always connected to divine love. It's always connected to divine source. It's always connected to knowing and behaving in alignment. It's always connected. And then as a baby, you get acculturated to different ways of thinking. You learn how to say I'm sorry when you don't feel you're sorry. You learn how not to say you think something's ugly when you really do. Oh, don't say that, Jimmy. We don't say stuff like that, right? And so we're basically socialized, right? We become socialized animals. And in that way, as we're socialized, we're also socialized to have a disconnect. We start developing a disconnect. And then we're told certain things and we see hypocrisy and we're told things about ourselves, mostly, yeah? We're told things about ourselves that don't align with the divine love that's always loving us. And we start believing what we're told, right? Mom puts us down in anger because she has 7 other kids. We're a little baby. We don't know. She's exhausted. We think something's wrong with us. We start developing a self-image that holds that somehow there's something about us not lovable. And I work with those issues all the time with my clients. Once we clear them, the connection to divine source and divine love, it just unfolds so easily, and it's wonderful. So that's really important. Why is that important? Because that sense of self-love, that source of continuous love is there for you all the time. However, if you speak inside you or even outside of you something that is not in alignment, part of you will be ashamed. And there's healthy shame and there's not healthy shame. There's healthy shame, and that lets you know that you're acting out of alignment. And then there's toxic shame, which is brought on by circumstances and self-images and things you take on that have nothing to do with you, right? That are poisoning you. They don't forward you at all. And they can make you very, very sick emotionally and physically, right? And that's the work that I do, is help people clear that. The healthy shame is acting in alignment, right? So when you're acting out of alignment, and you can forget God and spirituality and all that, but actually everything is spirit. I mean, there is nothing that's material, right? So what are you going to call it? It's spirit. So when you're acting out of an alignment to your core morality, which means that you're in alignment with your heart, which means that you're in alignment with divine love, right? And the knowing, you shut down. What does that do? That closes the field down, okay? So what you want to do, and you have to practice it, right? What you want to do is you want to not look into somebody's field. You want not to point with your mind, because what happens when you focus on something too intensely is that you miss the subtlety. And your body is the antenna that picks up the subtlety. So what I want you to start getting to notice is how things make you feel internally. Your body will let you know, and you'll get more sensitive to it. Again, everything practice makes perfect. Right? So I'm just introducing something. So when somebody's talking, let's say Trump is talking, right? Just bring your awareness. That's all. Just bring your awareness. You can look in the direction of the top of his head. I actually sort of go into the person's head themselves and feel into above their head at the same time. But again, this is my expertise. So at this point, I'm at a very high level of clairsentience, but it doesn't mean you can't get there, and it doesn't mean you can't surpass it, right? So you're going to bring your awareness to the person's head and above their head in a very soft gaze. Like if you were looking at something, it would be a soft gaze. If you're feeling into something, it's going to be a soft feel. And you're just going to notice, where does it feel like your awareness gets stopped, right? It's almost like a slight obstacle. It's like you hit something where you can't go as easily against, right? So when somebody's speaking truth, their field above their head is open. And that's because their heart center is open, because they're in alignment. When they're not speaking truth, and I had this experience when I saw the Frost-Nixon debates, and it doesn't matter whether the person's alive or dead, because, as I told you, all time is now, and consciousness is non-local, so it doesn't matter. And every time Nixon got caught in that interview with a lie, his field shrank. So when someone is lying, their field will be tight above their head. That's really important. So as you're feeling into, softly, feeling into the head and the top of the field of the person who's talking, and this could be a salesman, and politicians often are, right? Salesmen. So what you want to do is you want to see, are you being sold a bill of shit? Or do you want to know if that person is speaking their heart? That's what you want to know. Am I getting shit now? Am I getting stuff that you just want me to believe? You know, am I getting a party line? Am I getting your truth? Do you believe what you're saying? And I do that all the time. Whether it's Fauci, whether it's Gates, whether it's somebody from the CDC, whether it's a person on media, whether it's Trump, whether it's Obama, I do not care. I'm not a party person. I'm apolitical. I care only about the Constitution. I want to make sure that we all have our freedom, and I want to make sure you have yours. And so by getting you to be able to pick up the more subtle information about somebody, even though that person may look lily white on the outside, you can know, wait a minute, I'm not getting truth here. So here's some ways that it comes from me. When that person is telling the truth, their field is open. There's no doubt about that, because the heart center is open. It governs everything. So the field is open. However, there are different qualities, right? So if somebody, pay attention for the feedback, right? Because as the person is talking, that field is going to change. Now, you're not going to pick that up right away until you become more practiced, but that's going to happen for you. So when a person is speaking, their field will change. If they get excited, the field is going to open up, and it's going to have a certain quality to it. When they start feeling scared, it's going to come in, because now they're doubting themselves and they're pulling inwards, and that is going to have a certain quality to it. If they're getting angry, they're going to have a certain quality. So these are the qualities that I've gotten, and you need to look at how it shows up for you. When somebody is speaking truth, and I have to tell you, the most phenomenal field I ever felt, the closest to sainthood that I ever felt, was the field of the person who was interviewed, who gave his hotel in Rwanda to protect the people, and that's where the movie was made, Hotel Rwanda. That's who it was based on. He was interviewed, and I went into his field to see if he was telling the truth, and I can't tell you. It was the most beautiful sensation. It was unbelievable, feathery and so open and clear. And then you have politicians who are speaking truth, and their field is open. If somebody is angry, what I find is that the field starts getting jagged. It starts coming in, but not completely, and it's jagged. When somebody's lying, I find that the field comes down tight. And with Nixon, it went right down to his scalp at the end, because he was seen as the criminal, and he knew it. And all of a sudden, the gig was up, right? So his field was getting lower each time that he lied, but at the end, boom, right down, okay? And sometimes you'll get a field where somebody's in concentration about something. You'll pick it up. There's a certain energy to a field. It literally concentrates. It's interesting how the word coincides, okay? So again, just what you're going to do is just gently, not with a laser beam, but just allow yourself. Basically, it's allowing yourself to just bring your awareness into their field from in between their head and above their head, and just notice what you feel and practice it. I can't tell you how important it is, especially now that you are being fed what they want you to eat, that you can tell for yourself and think for yourself. You know, I know that that's a person in the party that I have always had an allegiance to, but here's what I'm picking up. And then start doing that every time. And the other thing is look for that person, right? If it's Fauci, look for him in different videos and practice feeling into his field as he speaks. If it's Gates, look for him and feel into his field as he speaks. If it's Trump, look for him outside of media, inside of media. But check his field. Don't check what they're telling you. Just check his field and see what you get. I was quite surprised. I got what I didn't think I was going to get. Let your intellect go. Let your allegiances go. Let your conditioning go. Let what they tell you go. Just experiment and see what you get. Practice with salespeople. Practice, and don't do it on the phone yet. If you're just starting, do it visual, right? Do it visual. And then as you get better, you can do the same with voice. All right? I am so excited that I figured out a way to start helping you learn how to be more clairsentient around a very, very important matter in our lives, because it has to do with our freedom. Elections coming up, by the way, and for anybody in any party whatsoever, mail-in elections are a setup for vote stealing. It's an absolute setup for vote stealing. We have internet elections would be set up for hacking, and you never, ever know whether you voted if you do it by mail. I don't care how many times you think that worked well. You don't know. You have no proof whatsoever unless you physically have voted. All right. I send you blessings. I send you, I'm in a vision of excitement for you about playing with this ability that you have that you don't know that you have. And I want to hear all about how it goes. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.